Hello everyone and welcome to the chapter number 53 of Blender Master Course Introduction to Compositing in Blender. For those of you who do not know anything about compositing, it is basically a tool in which you simply use the node system in Blender in order to enhance an image or a sequence of images. It also includes the things like changing some specific colors in the image, the glowing effect in the image, and many more interesting things which can easily be done simply by adding a node in the editor, and all this will give your renders a completely different and a unique look. So in this chapter, we'll be understanding about how this compositing works in Blender, and we'll also be learning about some compositing nodes. And for those of you who are new to this course, you can check out the previous 53 chapters from the link of the playlist in the pinned comment. So we have opened a new Blender file, and to begin with working with the compositing, we first need to open the compositing workspace. So on the top, you have this workspace named as compositing. So I'll select this, and in this workspace, here we have the compositor editor. Then below this, we have the dope sheet editor, and in the end, we also have a timeline editor. Now the dope sheet editor and the timeline editor will be used only if we are working on a sequence of images, or in simple words, an animation. But if we are working on still images, then we won't require the dope sheet editor and the timeline editor. Now to work on the compositing, we first need to bring in some nodes. So for this, first click on the use nodes option, and this will enable the compositing nodes in the workspace. Now we have these two nodes. One is the render layers, which is the input, and then we have the composite node, which is the output. So the render layers node will give the input of the image on which the compositing is to be done, and it will give the most recent rendered image of that particular file as the input. Then that image will be used as an input by the composite node or any other node which is connected in between the render layers and the composite node. So suppose I go to the layout workspace again, and we have this default cube in the scene. Now if I want the rendered image of this simple default cube in the compositing workspace, then for this simply click on render, and from here select the render image. Now we have this rendered image. Let's close it for now. Let's go to the compositing workspace again, and right now this render layers is not having the image that we rendered, and that's because we added this node before rendering our image. So to fix this problem, click on this cross icon, then click here and select the scene. Now you will notice that on the top of this render layers node, we are now having the image that we rendered. Also, whatever changes we'll do in the compositing will get applied to this rendered image. Now in order to view the changes that we do here directly in the compositing workspace, we have to use a node which is called the viewer node. To add it over here, press Shift plus A, go to output, and here we have the viewer node. So let's select it and place it over here. Now if I take the image socket in the render layers and connect it to the image socket in the viewer node, then now we have this rendered image of the default cube added at the back of the editor. Also, do ensure that this backdrop option is turned on in order to view the image in the compositing editor. Now suppose you want to change the size of the image at the back, then for this we can use the scale node. So press Shift plus A, go to transform, and here we have the options like the rotate, scale, and transform, and we can use any of these in order to change the rotation, scale, or the transformation of the image at the back. So if I select the scale and drop it in between the render layers and the viewer node, then with the help of the X and Y values, I can control the scaling of this image. So let's keep it to something like 0.6 or 0.4. Then suppose you want the image to be rotated, then for this we have the rotate node. To add it over here, press Shift plus A, go to transform, and select the rotate. Let's place it over here, and yes, you can also place it after the scale node, as it won't make any such difference. Now if I go to the degree and try to increase it, then you will notice that the image at the back is getting rotated. So with the help of the rotate node, you can easily control the rotation of this image. Now moving ahead, suppose you want to control the position of this image, then for this we have the translate node. To add it over here, press Shift plus A, go to transform, and select the translate node. We'll place it over here, and by changing the values in the X and Y axis, we can easily control the position of this image. Now moving ahead, we also have a node which serves the purpose of these three nodes: the translate, rotate, and the scale node, and this is the transform node. So first of all, let's delete the three nodes by pressing X. Let's also connect the image socket in the render layers back to the image socket in the viewer node. Now to add the transform node, press Shift plus A, go to the transform category, and here you will find the transform node. So I'll select this and place it over here, and now you will notice that we have four parameters. The first two are the X and Y values, which simply controls the position of the image. Then we have the angle, which will be controlling the rotation of the image. Then in the end, we have the scale value, which, as the name suggests, will be controlling the scaling of the image. Now let's try to do some very simple things with this image at the back, and by doing this we'll also be understanding about a very simple compositing node, which is the brightness contrast node. To add it over here, press Shift plus A, go to color, and in the adjust, here we are having the brightness contrast node. So I'll select this and place it over here. Now this brightness contrast node is connected in between the render layers and the composite node. However, to see the changes at the back, we also need to connect it to the viewer node. So if I take the image socket and connect it over here, then you will notice that the transform geometry node will get disconnected, and that's because the viewer node can only take one input at a time. So let's undo this, and now instead of connecting the transform geometry node directly to the input, we will be connecting it to the brightness contrast node. So I'll take the image socket in the brightness contrast node and connect it to the image socket in the transform node. And now you can see then the image will be received from the render layers by the brightness contrast node, and the result will be transferred to the composite node as well as the viewer node. Now in the brightness contrast node, we are having two options. The first one is the brightness and the second one is the contrast. And just like the name suggests, the brightness parameter will control the brightness, or basically the amount of white color in the scene. So if I increase this value, you will notice that the scene is now looking very bright. Also, if I take the brightness value to a negative number, then you will notice that the amount of black color will increase. So the brightness value can be used in both the ways. If you take it to a positive value, the brightness will begin to increase, and if you take it to a negative value, the brightness will reduce and the amount of darkness or the black color will increase. Now the second option that you have is the contrast, and contrast basically means making the brighter pixels even more brighter and the darker pixels even more darker. So if I increase the contrast from here, you will notice that we are now having two contrast colors in the image. One of them is complete white color and the other one is complete black color. And now suppose you want that this image at the back should get rendered. So for this, simply click on render and select render image. And here you will notice that the image that is finally rendered will also have the compositing effects applied to it. If you want to save the final image, then simply click on the image option, and from here you can save the image at your desired location. Now let's close this window. Now with this we have learnt about the basics of compositing in Blender, and now suppose you want to use the same compositing nodes for some external image and not for the one that you render in the Blender file. And to do this, go to the compositing workspace again, and now we need to open the image editor in the workspace. So for this, I'll be converting this dope sheet into the image editor. So for this, simply click here, and from the list of the editors, select the image editor. Now for this chapter, I'll be adding that image which I rendered in the chapter number 51 of this course, where we created this lighting scene by using geometry nodes. And yes, if you have not yet completed that chapter, then you can get the same rendered image in the description below. Now I hope that you have downloaded that image. Now to open that image, click on the open button, then open that particular folder where you have saved that particular file, then select it and click on open image. Now we have this image added in the image editor. Let's zoom out, and to use this image in the compositor editor, we need to use the image node. So to add it, press Shift plus A, go to input, and here we have the image node. So I'll select it and place it over here. We'll be using this image node which will act as an input for the rest of the nodes. We can also delete the render layers nodes from here. So I'll select it and press X to delete. Now let's take the image socket and connect it to the image in the brightness contrast node. And to add this image in the image node, click on this icon, and from this list, select that particular image. Now we have the image added at the back, and if you notice closely, the contrast effect that we applied with the help of this brightness contrast node can also be seen on the image at the back. So whatever changes I do in the compositor nodes now will simply get applied to the image that we are receiving as the input. Now moving ahead, we'll be using the RGB curves node. To add it over here, press Shift plus A, then go to color, and in the adjust, select the RGB curves node. Let's place it over here. Now if you remember, we understood about the RGB curves node in one of the previous chapters also while understanding the geometry nodes. We explored that this C stands for the combined channels, R stands for the red channel, then G stands for the green channel, and B stands for the blue channel. So for those of you who don't know, RGB means red, green and blue channels, and these are the three primary colors which can be used in order to create any particular color. Then in the middle of the RGB curves node, we have this graph using which we'll be controlling the red channel or the green channel or the blue channel or all three of them by selecting the combined channel. Now to modify this curve, simply left click on any point on the curve and this point will get created, and then if I left click and drag it like this, the position of this point will change in the curve, and you will also notice some differences in the image. In simple words, if I try to move the pointer in the upward direction, then in this case the brightness of the image as a whole will increase, and on the other hand, if I take this pointer downwards, then in this case the brightness of the image will reduce. If you want to reset the curve back to the original, then simply click here, and from this drop down menu select the reset curve. Now if you notice closely, we have two more pointers in the RGB curve which are present by default. One of them is this pointer on the top and the other one is this pointer at the bottom. Now both of them have some specific function. Now with this bottom pointer selected, if I try to move up, then in this case the brightness of all the black pixels will increase, and that is because this particular pointer controls the black or basically the dark pixels, and this one at the top controls the white pixels. So by moving this pointer upwards, the brightness of the black pixels will increase, and if I try to move it down, then in this case the brightness of the black or the dark pixels will reduce. Similarly, if I select this pointer at the top which is controlling the white pixels and bring it down like this, then in this case the brightness level of the white pixels will begin to reduce, and if I move it upwards, then the brightness of the white pixels will be increased. So you can use the RGB curves node in order to control the brightness of the image, whether you want to increase it or if you want to reduce it. So you can use the RGB curves node for this. Also, there is one more use of the RGB curves node, which is to control the contrasting in the image. If you remember, we understood about the contrast option in the brightness contrast node, and you can achieve the same result by using the RGB curves node also. So for this, you simply need to create a point over here and move it up, then create another point over here and we'll move it down. So we need to make a curve which has an S-like shape, and by using the position of these pointers, you can control the amount of contrasting and the way your image looks. So to add the contrast effect in the image, you simply have to create a curve like this one, and then you won't even need the brightness contrast node. Also, if I change the value in the contrast back to 0, then you can see the effect in a much better way, that if I try to move these pointers, then the contrast of the image colors changes like this. Also, if you want to see the final image in this image editor, then simply click here and select the viewer node. Now this is the image that is generated after compositing is applied, and if you want to save this image, then go to the image option and you can save the image from here. Now one more thing, if you want to close this side toolbar, then simply press the N key, and now you have more space to work in the compositor. Now we just discovered the combined channels in the RGB curves node, but as I already told you, we have 3 more options: the red channel, the green channel and the blue channel. So let's discover each one, and we'll first start with the red channel. So I'll select it, and now I can use this curve to basically increase or reduce the amount of red color in the image. So if I select a point in the middle and move it up like this, then in this case the amount of red color in the image will increase. To see the result properly, let's increase the size of this image editor, and now we can see the result properly. So by moving this pointer in the upwards direction, you will increase the amount of red color, and by moving this pointer down, the amount of red color will reduce, and now the image looks like this. So when the pointer is in the middle, there will be a balance in the red color. By moving it up, the amount of red color will increase, and yes, it will also depend on which particular position you are placing your pointer. For example, if I move it in the right also, then in this case the image will look slightly different from the previous result. But again, in simple words, the amount of color will depend on the position of this pointer. Now moving ahead, let's also discover the green channel, and in this one also, if I left click in the middle, then a pointer will get added, and if I move it upwards, then in this case the amount of green color will increase, and if I move it down, then we'll hardly see any green color in the image. Similarly, if I select the blue channel, then create a point in the middle and move it up, then in this case the amount of blue color will increase, and if I move it down, then we'll hardly see any blue color in the image. Now moving ahead, let's also discover the color balance node. So first of all, I'll remove the brightness contrast node. So hold down the Alt key, left click and drag it like this, press X to delete it. Then if you want, you can also remove the RGB curves node from here. So hold down the Alt key again, left click and drag it away, and press X to delete it. Then to add the color balance node, press Shift plus A, then go to color, and in the adjust, select the color balance node. Let's place it over here and also connect it to the transform node that is connected to the viewer node. Now in the color balance node, we have 3 different options. First one is the lift, second is the gamma, and the third is the gain. And for each of these 3 options, we have this color wheel and a brightness controller. So this node is used to balance the colors in the image according to these 3 options. So the first one, which is the lift, controls the dark areas or the shadows in the image. Then the second one, which is the gamma, controls the mid-tone areas, and the last one, which is the gain, controls the brighter areas or basically the highlights in the image. So in the thunder lighting image that we have here, the lift will control this darker area which is the background and the clouds, the gain will control this thunder lighting, and the gamma will control the mid-tone areas where we are having a balance of the highlights and the shadows. Now if I go to the first option, which is the lift, and try to change the color in this color wheel to something like the green color, then you will notice that the maximum effect of this color correction will be seen on this background and the clouds, and that's because they were more like the shadow regions or the darker regions in the image. You won't be able to see much difference in the lighting of the image. You can try the same with other colors also, like the blue color or maybe the red color. The change in the color will be observed much more on the darker areas like the background and the clouds. If you want to reset the color back to the white color, then simply place your cursor on this color wheel and press the backspace button. In a similar way, if I go to the brightness bar and try to reduce the brightness, then you will notice that the effect of the reduction in brightness is mostly visible on the background and the the clouds, but not on the lighting and the shadows or the reflections created by it. Now moving ahead, let's also discover the gain option, which controls the lighting in the scene. Let's also press Ctrl plus Z to undo and press the backspace to reset the color. Now we have the original image, and in the gain option, if I increase the brightness from this brightness slider, then you will notice that the brightness of this thunder lighting region has increased much more in comparison to the rest of the image. Similarly, if I go to the color wheel and try to change it to the red color, let's also reduce the brightness, and now you can notice that the color of thunder lighting is now changing according to the color wheel. You will also notice that the color of the clouds is also changing, and see, that's because the majority of light in the scene is coming from this thunder lighting, which is being controlled by the gain parameter here. Let's also change it back to the default color, and now let's move to the gamma. So this one will control the color balance in the mid-tone regions of the image, and if I try to change the color, then you will notice that the color change is visible on almost all the regions of the image, be it the clouds or the thunder lighting or even the plane. So by using this option, you can try to do the color correction of the mid-tones, or in most of the cases, the entire image. For now, let's reset the color to the default value. Let's also reduce the brightness, and yes, in most of the cases, you will be using the lift or the gain, because these two will help you to control the colors in the darkest and the brightest regions respectively. Now moving ahead, we'll be exploring the hue saturation value node. So first of all, let's remove the color balance node from here. So hold down the Alt button, then left click and drag this away. Press X to delete, and now to add the hue saturation value node, press Shift plus A, go to color, and in adjust, here we have the hue saturation value. Let's place it over here and connect the image socket to the transform node. Now this node is based on a color model which is HSV, which obviously stands for hue, saturation and value. By using these three parameters, we can create any type of color, and to understand it in a better way, you can look at this image and understand how each of these three parameters control the different things in colors. Now let's also understand this concept in a practical way in the compositing editor. So first we'll go to the value parameter, and if I reduce it, you will notice that the image will become darker, and if I increase it, the brightness of the image will increase. So the value parameter controls the amount of brightness in the image, because if I reduce this value to 0, then we'll have no brightness, and if I increase it to its maximum value of 2, then in this case we'll be having the maximum brightness. However, if you want to increase the brightness even further, then you can click on this value, and suppose I enter 5, then in this case it will now be controlling the value from 0 to 5. Previously, if I press Ctrl plus Z, the value was between 0 and 2, but after I type any particular number here, for example if I type 7, then in this case the amount by which you can control the value, or basically the brightness, will increase like this. So now it is giving us the option to control the value from 0 to a value of 10. But for now, I'll reduce this value to something like 2 or 1.5. Now the next parameter that we have is the saturation, and this one will control how colorful our image looks. So if I reduce the saturation to 0, then in this case there will be no colors in the image, and it looks like a black and white image. However, if I begin to increase this value, you'll start to notice some colors in the image, and if I take it to the maximum value of 2, then in this case the image becomes very much colorful. By default, at a saturation value of 1, the image looks like this with a higher brightness. However, if I increase the saturation value to its maximum, then now the image looks much more colorful than before. And now the last one that we have is the hue parameter, and in this image you can see that the hue basically controls the colors that you'll see in the image. So if I try to change this value, then you will notice that the colors in the image will begin to change. So with each different value in the hue parameter, we'll be having some different colors. At the default value equal to 0.5, we'll be having the original image. However, if I try to increase or reduce the value, then in this case we'll be having some different colors depending upon the value in the hue parameter. Now moving ahead, the next node that we are going to discover will be the blur node. To add it over here, press Shift plus A, go to filter, then in the blur category, select the blur node. We'll place it over here, and now this is a very simple node which can be used to create the blur effect in the image. And to do this, you simply have to change the values in the X and Y parameters over here. So if I try to increase the value in the X to something like 40 or 50, then you will notice that the image is getting blurred in the X axis, or basically the horizontal direction. Similarly, if I take this value back to 0 and change the value in the Y axis to something like 60, then in this case the blur effect is being applied in the Y axis or the vertical direction. However, in most of the cases you will need a blur effect which is uniform throughout, and to achieve such a result you need to ensure that the values in the X and the Y axis are equal. So if I enter 60 in both the X and Y parameters, then you will notice that we are now having an equal blur effect applied in both the directions. And now moving ahead, we'll be discovering the glare node. So for this, let's first go back to the layout workspace, and now to understand the glare node, we first need to make something in the scene which has some emission material applied to it. So to understand it in a better way, I'll first delete the cube from here by pressing X, then press Shift plus A, go to Mesh and select the monkey object. Let's go to the camera view by pressing 0 on the numpad. Let's rotate the monkey object in the Z axis by pressing R and Z and rotate it like this. Let's also change the camera's position by clicking on this lock button, and let's keep the camera view to something like this. Now moving ahead, we need to create some material for the monkey object. So first of all, let's go to the render view. Now to create the material, I'll change this window of the timeline editor into the shader editor. So for this, click on this icon and select the shader editor. To create a new material, click on the new button, and now we'll be creating a material with some noise texture and the emission applied to it. So for this, press Shift plus A, then go to texture and select the noise texture. We'll place it over here, and to connect it to the texture coordinate and the mapping node, press Ctrl plus T, and just like always, I'll take the object socket and connect it to the vector. I'll take the factor socket and connect it to the base color, and to add some colors, let's add the color ramp node. So press Shift plus A, go to converter and select the color ramp. We'll place it over here with the first pointer selected. I'll change the color by increasing the brightness, and I'll be keeping the red color. Then for the second pointer, I'll select it and change the color to something like yellow. I'll select the first pointer again and change the color to blue instead of red. Also, I'll change the interpolation type from linear to constant. Let's select the yellow pointer and change the position like this. Now to control the scaling, go to the noise texture and we'll increase the scaling like this. Let's also increase the detailing and the roughness also to something like 0.8. And now to use the same material for the emission also, I'll go to the principal VSTF. Then in the emission, I'll first increase the emission strength to something like 4 or 5. And for the color, I'll take this color socket in the color ramp node and connect it to the emission color. Now you can see here that we are not able to see the effect of emission properly on this material, and to solve this problem, we have to use the glare node in the compositing editor. So first of all, go to the compositing workspace, and right now we are having this image that we added. However, to get the image that we'll render in the 3D viewport, we first need to remove this image node. So I'll select it and press X to delete, then press Shift plus A, go to input, and from the scene, select the render layers. Let's place it over here, connect the image socket to the image in the blur node. Now let's go to the layout workspace again, then go to render and select render image. This image is now rendered, but it looks like this because all the changes that we did in the compositor are now being applied to this rendered image. So I'll close this window, then go to the compositing workspace. Now first of all, I'll remove this blur node. So I'll select it and delete it by pressing X. Let's also remove this hue saturation value node. So I'll select this and press X to delete. Now I'll take the image socket and connect it to the image in the transform node. Then I'll take the image socket and connect it to this composite node. Now finally we can add the glare node and see how it works. So press Shift plus A, go to filter and select the glare node. Let's place it over here. To view the result over here, take the image socket and connect it to the transform node. And now you will notice some changes in the rendered image. Now in the glare node, by default, the glare type is selected as streaks, and as a result, in the rendered image, you can see these streaks added at each and every place where we were having the emission material. Then from here, you can control the quality of the glare. In most of the cases, the best option is to select the high quality. Then the iteration means the number of times to run a particular filter through the algorithm. The higher the value of iterations, the better will be the result, but it will take some more render time. So mostly you'll be keeping the iteration value to something like 3 or 4. Then if you want to control the number of these streaks, then you can use the streaks parameter from here. So if I reduce it, the number of streaks will reduce in the streaks effect. And if I increase this value, then the number of streaks in the effect will increase. Then the next thing that you have is the angle offset, and by using this parameter, you can control the angle of these streaks. For example, if I keep this value to 0, then the angle offset is equal to 0 degrees and the streaks look like this. However, if I change the angle offset to 45 degrees, then in this case, the angle of the streaks will change like this. Then the next thing that you have is the mix parameter, and the mix parameter takes the value from -1 to +1. If I take the value of mix to its minimum value of -1, then in this case, the effect won't be applied at all and you will be seeing the original image. Then if I increase this value and take it to a value of 0, then in this case, we get the streaks effect applied. And then if I increase the value of mix to its maximum value of 1, then in this case, we'll be seeing only the streaks effect and not the rest of the surroundings. So to get a realistic result, we'll be keeping the mix value to 0, and now it looks perfect. Also, if I go to the glare type option, then you have 4 more glare glare types. And the first one is the most important, which is the bloom. So I'll select this, and with the bloom you can basically control the glow of the emission. First of all, let's reduce the size from here, and we'll be keeping it to something like 4 or 5. And right now the glow effect is being applied to all the parts that had the emission material. But to give it a realistic look, we need the glow effect to be applied only to certain regions and not to all the regions. And for this we have to use the threshold value. So if I begin to increase it, you will notice that the glow effect has reduced, or in simple words, it's only being applied to some specific regions as per the threshold value. So if I increase it, it will only apply the glare effect to the pixels that have a value greater than the threshold value, and if I reduce it, then the glare filter will get applied to many more pixels. For now, I'll keep the threshold to something like 3.5 or 4. Now to understand the remaining glare types, I'll be creating a duplicate of this node. So press Shift+D and move it over here. Then I'll take the image socket and connect it to the image in the transform node. And now we are having two glare nodes with the bloom type selected. And as a result, the amount of glow in the rendered result has also increased. But if I change the glare type to the ghosts, then this specific type will create a haze over the image and create this special dispersion effect. Just like the other types, you can control the iteration value from here, or the mix value, and similarly the threshold value. Moving ahead, the next type that you have is the fog glow, and this one will basically stimulate some glow around the bright objects in the image. It's very similar to the bloom effect that we added over here. To see the effect in a better way, simply increase the size from here, and you will notice that the glow effect has now increased. Now the next one that you have is the simple star. Now the simple star is very similar to the streaks type that we saw initially. The only difference between the two is that the simple star will create the streaks which look like a simple star. So you can try to change the different glare types and these parameters, and in this way you can give your emission material a unique look. However, in most of the cases, we only use the bloom effect along with the streaks glare type. And with this, we now arrive to the end of the chapter number 53. Today we learnt about how the compositor works in Blender, and also about a wide range of important compositor nodes. So our next chapter will be the chapter number 54, layers and masks in Blender. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel, press that notification bell so that you can get timely updates about the upcoming chapters. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.